So let's talk about the basics of playing in Ableton Live, playing back clips. Am I missing my glasses? I am missing my glasses. Where'd they end up? In this pocket right here. There we go. Put the glasses back on so I can see what I'm doing. Oh goodness, yes, that much better. Okay, so. All right, so if I've got a couple clips in here, let's go ahead and just drag a couple things in here. I'm gonna go ahead and drag in, let's drag in some broken modular loops. Let's see, what do we got here? Drum loops. Oh, these are all like super fast. Whatever, I don't mind that one. So I'll play this one here. I'm gonna change a couple things on this one here. Awesome. So make that nice and loud there. And so when I bring it in here, it's playing right here. And I can play any one of these over here. It's gonna play along with it. And I can drop it in here. I'm gonna drop a couple of extra ones in here. I'm gonna make them all basically the same with the warp down here. And I'm gonna push play on this one. And you can hear every time I click on a new one, it's gonna play that one and stop playing the previous one. Right, I'm gonna hit play on this next one here. Right, if I want to play a separate loop, what I can do is I'll go over here and I'll drag one of these in here, this flutes. Drag this over here and play this one here. And I'll just grab a couple of these and drag them in. So I can play these both at the same time, but they have to be on separate tracks. If I put the flute this flute right here, watch what happens. Right, it's gonna go ahead and replace the drums because I can only play one clip at a time. If I want to play this flute at the same time, I'll put it over here and then I'll press the drums. 1, 2, 3, go. Now, the other thing that's really cool about this is this tempo here is 128 BPMs. This one is 80 BPMs, but they're both playing at 100 BPMs. And the reason why is because Ableton Live takes all your clips, your loops and stuff like that, and it puts them at the same tempo. It pretty much knows how to do it. There are some occasions when it won't understand like what the tempo is supposed to be, but if you're using loop libraries and stuff like that, it's always gonna know what that tempo is supposed to be as long as they're cut correctly. So if I go in here, let's grab a bass, clean, let's grab a bass that's in B, because that flute is in B. Is there one here? Here, yeah, well here, I'll play this one here. Now let's hit play on this. There we go. So I've got all these clips going from different tempos, and they're all working in conjunction with each other. They're all locked into that same tempo. Now, if I go in here and I change my tempo, listen to what happens. I'm going to slow it down. It automatically slows it down. All at the same time. I'm going to speed it back up again. I'm using the arrow keys on my computer to do this. I can just type in a tempo and it'll automatically slow it down to that tempo. So there we go. That's how that works. It works really well. Everything's just locked in. And we're going to talk about why that happens in a bit, but I just want to show you that everything's locked in. So the main takeaways from this right now that I want you to remember are that you can only play one clip at a time on a track. If you want to play several clips at the same time, you have to put them on different tracks. And you just drag it in and drop it and it goes. And as long as it's a loop that's cut like a loop, you'll be fine. It won't be any kind of problems at all. So pretty dope stuff there, right? Yeah. All right, if I want to record quantized stuff in, I can use record quantization. We're going to talk about that when we talk about MIDI stuff tomorrow, though. We're going to skip that for now and talk about that tomorrow. Okay, a couple of really good shortcuts. The easy shortcut, it's the shortcut basically for every single DAW, is the spacebar, which is start and stop. And you've got Shift Tab, which switches between the clip view and the plugin view. So if I go on here, I can switch between my clip view and my plugin view. I don't have any plugins on here right now. Let's go ahead and put like a distortion plugin so we can hear that. Let's put it on this flute here. No, let's put it on this this drum line here. So I'm going to go ahead and grab a plugin here. Audio effects. Let's go for drive and color, and we'll use pedal. Let's use pedal. Let's go ahead and solo this one out. There we go. It gives it a nice low end. There we go. Cool. So there's without the effect here, without the effect, with the effect. Cool. All right. So I got that little sound on there. If I want to flip back and forth between what my clip is playing, I can use Command Shift to flip back and forth between my clip and my effects that are on the track. That's Shift Tab, not Command Shift. Shift and Tab. There we go. So I can flip back and forth between these. The other way to flip back and forth between those is to double click on the name of the track or double click on the clip itself, and it will show you what's playing on the clip or what effects are on the track. That's the other way to flip back and forth between those. Cool. Command T adds a new track, Command Shift T adds a new MIDI track, and Command Option T adds a new return track. And then B is for draw mode. These are the main shortcuts. Hold on one second. Why did you put this all the way over here? Come on. Sorry, my dog put her chew toy on the other side of the hallway over there, and she was like all sad because she couldn't get to it. I don't know why she put it there, but she did. Oh well. All right, so these are the main shortcuts that we've got here. These are the kind of the most important ones. Of course, there are other shortcuts. For example, F9 turns record on and off for your arrangement view, stuff like that. But don't forget that you can also turn your own shortcuts on. You can also make your own shortcuts in here. So that's a pretty useful feature. Like I said, I use that for some main things that don't have shortcuts already. All right, over here, if we're in the arrangement view, the way the tracks look, you could see these look similar, but things are in different places. So let's just go ahead and take a look at what's going on in here. Up here is the I/O section. Input is on top, output is on the bottom. You get the monitor section here in the middle. That is the same as over here. And here on each track, I've got the input up top and the output on the bottom, and the I/O section, the monitor section is in the middle here. Now, this is the same for both sides. For example, in my session view and my arrangement view, they're reflecting the same stuff. So for example, if I go over here to my MIDI out, this one here, and I say, let's send it to external out 1 and 2, if I go back to my arrangement view, it's now going to say external out 1 and 2. So that's the same for both of these. Puppy. That's the same for both of these sides, because it's actually the same track. And this is something that people get a little bit confused on. They're not different tracks. It's just a different view of the track. So this here is my session view here. It's the same track, but this one here is when I want to lay stuff out. So the inputs, outputs, effects are all the same between the two views. It's exactly the same thing. It's just on two different screens. That's the only thing that's different. So if I go over here and I change my level here, there's my level. There's no actual fader in this view here. It just shows me my number. But if I go look at the number in the other one, we can see it's the same. Right now it says 14.9. If I put it at -10, and I go to my other view, see it says -10. They're connected. This right here is my sends. So if I want to send to a reverb, let's get my drum here and send it to this reverb. I'm going to turn these off. Let's send this over to my reverb. Let's change the reverb here first. Change this reverb to a hall so we can just hear it really well. And now send it to my reverb. So you can hear that, what's going on here. If I want to send less to the reverb, I just turn this down. And this is on the same, it's on both of them over here. This one right here is the same thing. It's just a number instead of a little knob. And that's going over to my return track here, which I can turn down the return right here. Now, this is the same as an aux track in Pro Tools that you've got an effect running on. So if you have like your reverb or a delay running on an aux track in Pro Tools, it's the same thing. It's just here, it's called a return track. There are no aux tracks in Ableton Live. There are only audio tracks, MIDI tracks, and return tracks. If you want to use an aux track for subgrouping, you just make a MIDI track, an audio track, and you just send the data to that audio track. It's actually really easy to utilize. You just have to know how to do it. All right, so that's a little show you like right there, like what to do there. And yeah, let's take a look at the preferences here. I'm just gonna go ahead and keep recording because it's not that long of a video. We're gonna go ahead and keep recording here and show the preferences. Again, to get to the preferences, it's Command, comma, or you go up here to live, preferences right there, boom, and it pulls up our preferences. And let's just take a look at these and go through these. Now, some of these are gonna be a little bit different from what's in the notes just because the notes were done with live 9, I think, and we're in live 11 now. But it's basically the same. Okay, first of all, over here in look and feel, this is where you can change what you're looking at on the screen here. Follow behavior, turn that to scroll or page, depending on if you like follow behavior or not. I don't like follow behavior, so I keep it off. Hide labels, I keep the labels. You can show or hide your labels, so you can, it depends on how good you are with it. If you're like an expert with stuff, you can turn these off. I keep them on just because I'm used to them being on, but and also because I teach using live, so I just keep them on. But you can turn them off if you want. Permanent scrub areas. I actually turn this one, what do I do? Hold on, let me see. Yeah, I keep those off, and by default they're on, but I keep them off because it gives me a little bit more space down here to zoom around and move stuff around. The way live does zoom is you kind of mouse over this bottom part here in the clip, and you click and you drag up and down. Or you can click down here and use your plus and minus keys. But I like to do this. I like to use both, actually. So I keep my permanent scrub areas off because the scrub area, what it does is if I want to start right here, I can do that. And the way I do that is I just hold down Shift. If you have the permanent scrub areas off with this here, you're just going to use the Shift key to bring up your speaker to scrub around on the track. So I go ahead and use it like that. It's the old school way to use live. They put this as a setting here eventually in like newer versions like Live 8, I think, or 9. And I never really used it that much. So I would do that. And then the pen tablet mode, I don't use live in pen tablet on my iPad or something like that as a screen. So I keep this off. If you are using some kind of a touch pad thing and you're using live on the screen for that, then you can put that there. but I don't use that myself. Zoom display. If you want to have your display be a little bit bigger, you can zoom display in and out, bigger or smaller. I'm just going to keep this on my laptop at 100% because it works. But if I'm using it on a big giant monitor, like a 20 or 25 inch monitor or something like that, I will adjust that and change it. Come on up on my lap, baby. Here's this. You can eat this. There you go. There you go. Come on. So I can adjust that like this, right there. Next up is auto assign track colors, on or off, it doesn't really matter. Default track color, whatever, clip color, track color, that's what I always use. Reduced automatic colors, oh, that's pretty cool. I'll try that one, see. I like it when it does automatic coloring, but I don't like my colors to be all over the place. Customization, we just talked about that a little bit ago, so we're not gonna click on, mess around with this, but if you wanna try the way live works, try different things. Then we have our audio section. The audio section is very important for changing your audio interface and stuff like that. Also important for changing your sample rate or your buffer size, those things there. I will say that Live is a bit different from Pro Tools in that Live doesn't really care about your sample rate. It will automatically adjust things on the fly. And same thing with your, your sample rate. Yeah. And then your driver type, core audio if you're on a Mac, ASIO for all or something like that if you're on a Windows machine. Input device, you can change this up right here. You can see you've got separate devices for input and output, which is very different from Pro Tools. You do not need to use aggregate if you want to have a different input from your output, which is really nice. But if you want to use multiple inputs or multiple outputs, then you would need to use the Pro Tools aggregate device. Sample rate is right here. You can change your sample rate, your default SR pitch conversion, high quality, just leave that on. Nothing else in here really needs to be messed around with. It's the buffer size. If you want to change your buffer size, you can change it right there. That's pretty important, I guess. Link, tempo, all this stuff here, MIDI. This is an important page. The link toggle, that link button that's over here on the left-hand side right here, if you want to hide that, you can hide it by clicking that right there. If you want to start and stop the sync, you can turn that on or off. I just keep it on just because I never know when I'm going to be using link. Like I said, right now I'm not really using it that much, but you can do that. With Live 11, there is a new thing called the tempo follower, which allows you to follow a tempo that's coming on an input somewhere. So if you have like a hi-hat or something, Ableton Live will follow that tempo. We'll try to follow it, but it has to be pretty steady. So be aware of that. This I think would be good for if you're playing like a DJ set with like like a lot of techno and stuff like that. It might work for that. I've never tried it yet because it's a brand new feature, so your mileage may vary for that. On MIDI, here, whatever you have plugged in, it's gonna come in down here. MIDI, the Control Surface MIDI Lab ports, anything like that that's down here. They've streamlined this a little bit, but this stuff here is for if you want to use Live, like a controller with Live, which I would recommend doing if you can with stuff. It's really useful. This part here is a little bit more on the advanced side. If you have a control surface that works with Live, we can talk about setting it up, but it's not really a beginner thing, so I'm not going to really worry about it right now. And then takeover mode, I usually set this for pickup. That's the way I like it. So when you turn a knob through something, it has to pick it up and then it moves. It doesn't just jump to it and it doesn't scale it. It picks it up, which is really nice. If you are using a Live push from Ableton, then this part doesn't really matter. Then you got your MIDI ports. The MIDI ports, you want to have your track or remote set up. And then there's a new thing called MPE. I don't remember what MPE stands for, MIDI Programmable Expression. I'm not really sure what it stands for, but basically it's like some of the newer controllers have this MPE ability, which allows them to do separate, like some really cool stuff on individual notes and things like that. The one that comes to mind really is this thing called Rolly, which has like a really interesting kind of way to use like keys. It's like a weird keyboard looking thing. It's pretty cool. I borrowed my friend's for about a year. I used it somewhat. It was neat. It's a little bit uncomfortable for me to play because I'm so used to playing with a real keyboard. So it wasn't easy for me to get going with it. They have a new one though that looks like a more traditional keyboard, which does look pretty cool. So that's something I may end up looking into buying because it's a little bit more of a real keyboard and you can like lock them together so you have more or less. So that's pretty neat. They're a little bit on the pricey side, but I think they're probably worth it because they bring in some other functionality to stuff. When you drag in files, do you want it to automatically create an analysis file? Yes or no? You can turn that on. If you have a sample editor that you want to have set up like Adobe, something from Adobe or something like that, then you can set that up here for the sample editor. Temporary folder, if you want to bring stuff into your temporary folder, if you want to set that to a different one than the default setting. This is basically your temporary folder is when you haven't saved it yet and you're already dragging files in, it has a temporary folder already set up. Your Max application, if you're using Live Suite, it just comes with a bundled version of Max. Actually, Ableton bought the company Cycling 74 a few years ago, so actually Ableton Live owns Max, but Max actually operates as its own company within Ableton Live. They just kind of bought it to like make everything a little bit more streamlined, but it's still doing its own thing. Decoding cache, if you drag MP3s into Live, it decodes them automatically in the background and it puts them into this folder right here. If you want to clean that up, if you're not using MP3s like that anymore, like if you're at one point you're DJing with Ableton Live and then you stop, this would be, you can click this cleanup button and it will clean up a lot of space on your hard drive if you're using a lot of MP3s. Your library is for how, like this is earlier somebody asked, Rondell, I think it was you, how do we put stuff into an external hard drive, basically? How do we get our live packs into an external hard drive? This is where it goes. Installation of folder for live packs. Right here, you click on this browse button and you navigate to your external hard drive and it will put those in that folder. And your user library, same thing. If you don't want to have everything resting on your internal drive on your computer, you can put it there and it will move it around. It'll change the location of it for you. So again, that's up to you. Like I said, for me personally, I like to have the live packs on my internal drive just so that when I'm moving around, I don't have to worry about bringing hard drives and stuff and I can make music wherever. It is, like I said, it's a few gigabytes, especially because how I use it, I don't use everything. I don't install like I don't install the symphony stuff and orchestra stuff like that because I have that from Native Instruments and some other companies. But I do install some of them, but not that many. Plugins over here again. We just talked about this, so I'm not going to talk about it again. But the plugins area is right here, and then record, warp, launch. How do you record stuff? What does it do at bit depth and wave file type and stuff like that? So file type is right here. You got AIF and wave. Always use wave. This is more compatible across the board. Bit depth 24-bit, 32 maybe. I need to do some more research into 32-bit and like how it's coming along right now and if people are using it already. Count in, again, you can set that up in your metronome area. I use none. Exclusive. I think they're both set to exclusive. I turn solo off. Basically what this means is that if you can hit solo on more than one track at a time. Now, I use exclusive mode with arming my tracks. So it means that it can only record one track at a time, but if I ever wanted to record two tracks at the same time, I can just hold down the command key and record both of those at the same time, or multiple ones. With solo, I have it set so I do not need to hold that command key down to do that. Up to you how you want to do it, but there you go. All right, over here we have the auto warp, loop warp short samples. Turn that to auto warp long samples. Yes, on is a good way to have it. Oh, wait, hold on a second. I've skipped a couple things. Clip update rate, 16th is fine, whatever. Record session automation in all tracks. I leave that set for all tracks. If you want to record automation only into tracks that are record armed, then you can hit this armed button. But I recommend leaving it on all tracks. In order for it to record, when I record automation, I usually turn my record arm off on all my tracks. So I'm not recording anything. And then I hit the record button and I record in my automation data. Start playback with record, that's on by default. You can turn it off, up to you. Warp fades, loop warp short samples, auto warp long samples, yes. Auto default warp mode, beats is fine. Create fades on clip edges, I leave that set for off. I think on might be the default, but I leave it set for off. Launch, default launch mode trigger, default launch quantization, global, select on launch, off, select next scene on launch, off. Select on launch on might be useful actually if you're doing stuff live. That would be pretty useful, but I leave it off because I don't really play live with Ableton Live right now. Start recording on scene launch, no. Again, this is for if you're recording loops and stuff like that in a live setting. This stuff is useful for that. Tap tempo, start playback with tap tempo. Yes, that's a good one to have. MIDI note drawing, draw mode with pitch lock. If this is on when you draw, it's gonna like lock it into the pitch. It won't let you, because if you move up or down, it won't change the pitch. I used to keep this on and then I switched to having it off just because I feel like it was a little bit more, I don't know, it was a little bit annoying with it to be on. And then licenses and stuff like that, this just shows you what licenses you have. I've got Live Suite because I've just been using the Suite version of Live for such a long time, and it's what I use. All right. Get automatic updates. It's going to ask, so whenever there's like an update for Ableton Live, I can say yes or no. I think there was an update recently that I just said yes for. It was fine. But I don't always. I usually kind of check out what it was. But it was like 11.0.1. It was just like some small bug fixes and stuff like that. So I went ahead and did the update. But I don't recommend always doing the updates. And I've got send usage data set to on. So that way Live can kind of track and see how I'm using Live to kind of hopefully improve on things down the road. Let's see here. Puppy, you want this one? There you go. Or maybe this one. It's a little chew toy. She's like chilled pretty much right now. She's a lot more chill than she was the past couple of weeks, right? The reason for that was because I had to be, there was painters working on the outside of the house last week and the week before. So I had to be kind of inside, but now the painters are pretty much done. They're not in this area where I'm in right now. So yeah, I get to be outside, and she's a lot more calm outside because she can't hear people talking inside. She can hear all the people talking and stuff like that. So she's a lot more impatient inside. All right, so that's pretty much it for our preferences. I think we're going to go ahead and stop the recording right there.